This episode of the Major Spoilers Podcast is being brought to you by our newest patrons, Steve Bush and John. Thank you so much for being a part of the Major Spoilers Patreon. And if you would like to support independent podcasters, point your browser to patreon.com/Major Spoilers and sign up today.
The Major Spoilers Podcast covers news, reviews, and of course, spoilers, and goes into details about the topics discussed. So if you haven't read, listened, or watched the items we talk about, you might want to come back later.
I'm Matthew.
Rodrigo.
And I'm Steven, and you're listening to the Major Spoilers Podcast, the podcast for pop culture and comic fans.
In this issue, podcasting on the moon, we fight for freedom wherever there's trouble, from Angel Grove to Cimmeria to wherever it is that the rainbow ends. I like to think it's somewhere in the County Cork. Plus, the professor and Tintin knows there's a quisling in their midst, but if they don't find him, they live on the moon from now on. As the French say, Je m'appelle Monsieur Boeuf le Fête, which means my name is Mr. Beefhead. And that's high praise. So sit back and hit the booster rockets, because the Major Spoilers Podcast is on the air.
Welcome to 2026 and episode 1156 of the Major Spoilers Podcast. Thank you so much for downloading and checking us out this week. We are so glad that you are with us. If you are enjoying the show and you think one of your friends might listen to it, let them in. Just let them know, hey, go check out this Major Spoilers Podcast. Subscribe to it. They're on all the podcast outlets that are out there, so that we can grow with and have even more spoilerites join us this year. And if they want to have conversations with really awesome people, we've got a Discord. Jump into the Discord for free, and you can talk about comic books. Sports ball is really big right now because of the way that certain basketball teams are playing. So the sports ball channel is super active, but we've got channels about comic books and TV shows and movies and TTRPGs and video games and a whole bunch more. Go and join the conversation with some really, truly, honestly great people. The Major Spoilers Discord server. We've got some reviews for you this week, and I think we've got some good ones. Why don't we start with you, Matthew, with this week's Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Zordquest. Boom Studios isn't done with the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers yet. They haven't released their grasp on that Hasbro property. We'll probably find out more next month in February what happens when that Mighty Morphin series comes to an end.
Hopefully it doesn't, but...
I mean, it ends with it. Issue 16 is the final one. And so if they continue with anything... Yeah, if they continue with anything Power Rangers after that, there has not been an announcement yet. So,
yeah, they almost never do, though. I mean, Power Rangers Prime wasn't announced until after the last issue.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying we're going to wait and see what they do, because I think their Hasbro licensing deal is almost up. And also, if you go back and read the Major Spoilers newsletter from a couple of weeks ago, I talk about the worst thing that happened in 2025, and that really impacted companies like Boom Studios, Dynamite, Zenoscope, and others. So, is that going to have a play in this? We'll find out. But anyway, right now we've got the Zords doing something.
Zordquest. So this actually is a one-shot, which means it's number 1 of 1, and it takes place in the midst of a previous issue, written by Joey Esposito, art by Gavin Smith, cover price of $6.99. Zordquest basically features what happens when the Rangers are not on the same page. There is a fail-safe mechanism within the Megazord that disassembles it if all 5 pilots are not on the same page. Now, this would have been great for them to tell us back in 1995, but nonetheless, when the Zords come from their various areas, because you know that Angel Grove is bounded by a desert, some jungles, Iceland glacier, and some sort of weird mountain area, the Zords go back home, and so the 5 Mighty Morphin Core Rangers have to literally travel to wherever their Zords live. So one's in a volcano, one's in an ice bath. They have to go and find them, bring them back, and bring them together. Now, this is the first time I have ever seen a canon explanation of those bits of Super Sentai footage. And honestly, in a year where both Super Sentai and Power Rangers have kind of I'm not saying they've died because that makes me sad, but have kind of gone by the wayside, at least for the short term. It's comforting, maybe, but also, as I said previously, and I think we'll be saying later in the week in Top 5, sometimes you don't need a prequel to answer all the questions. That said, a couple of questions in this issue that I did find fascinating. Why is he Alpha 5? Why does a falcon hang out at the bottom of a volcano? And what's the deal with the dragon sword? So if you have not been reading Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, but you're still kind of interested, this is a done in one. Rodrigo, you should definitely check it out because the villain is an axolotl monster called Mrs. Axolot.
Nice.
And she has an axe. Yeah.
Yeah.
The price point is a little bit of beer and the cornflakes. I'm going to go with 3 slices of meatloaf. It's a good, solid story. It really does tell some Mighty Morphin stuff that I kind of wish they'd done back during the actual ongoing Mighty Morphin series when this takes place. But it's a good book, and the art is really, really well handled, especially anything related to the Zords. Gavin Smith does some really great technology.
Joey Esposito. He's not the one that did that Karate Kid song, right? You're the best.
No, I think Joey Esposito was the lead singer of NSYNC, wasn't he?
Who did that song?
It was Joey Esposito, and then You're the Best.
Joe
Hello.
Esposito.
Joe Esposito.
Yes.
Okay.
So this must be his son.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, those Nepo
right.
babies writing Power comics.
Good for them. Good for them. Get out on their own.
Yeah.
Speaking of getting out on their own, Jim Zub over there at Titan Comics continues to write some magnificent Robert E. Howard stories, mainly the Conan series. And this week from Titan Comics, we get Conan, Scourge of the Serpent #4. This is the final part of a 4-part major crossover between multiple Robert E. Howard characters. So you've got Cole, you've got Conan, and then you've got, I always forget the name of the guy that's in the current area, the current era of Robert E. Howard, but the detective guy. This one, again, because it's the final issue, probably not a great jumping on point, but this is where we see Set's plan. Set is trying to create a new hybrid of human serpents. And so each of these 3 warriors and heroes have been brought together through time and space to get it on with Set so that they can create a new Stygian race that will defeat something big and menacing coming to Earth. I don't know if that is a setup for a future story, but it's definitely some kind of a cosmic entity, some eldritch horror that is making its way to Earth. And so it'll be interesting to see if that plays out later this year or next year, or how it's going to play out. The art in this by Ivan Gill, really interesting art. There is some nudity, some very brief nudity in this piece. So if that's something that offends you, you might need to be aware of that going in. But I think bottom line is, if you are someone that loves everything Robert E. Howard and are very well versed in everything Robert E. Howard, then you need to go pick up this series, the Scourge of the Serpent series. If you're a Conan fan and you're a casual reader of Conan and you don't know who Cole is, or you don't know who this other guy is, you're going to be.
Is it Steve?
What's that?
Is it Steve? I thought the detective's name was Steve.
It's Kura something. It starts with a K as his last name.
Okay.
But it's interesting. It's fascinating. But again, if you are not a hardcore Robert E. Howard reader, then you're probably going to be lost a little bit when you're trying to figure out, well, why is this person important? And who's this guy that's in Atlantis? And why does he look and act just like Conan? Hint, hint, hint. Then you're probably going to be lost. I still enjoyed it very much, even though I'm not a big Robert E. Howard scholar or fan of all of his work. And I was still able to follow it. It's a very good 4-arc series, and you might want to be better off waiting for the trade for this. But if you're into this and you've been reading it, it's a solid 3.5 slices of meatloaf for me this week. Conan, Scourge of the Serpent #4 from Titan Comics. Rodrigo, where does the rainbow end?
Where does the rainbow end? That's a comic that I'm reading.
Oh, really?
So, yes. And it answers the question, where does the rainbow end? In fact, pretty much right away, because where does the rainbow end? Number one, writer Francesca Perillo, artist Stefano Cardoselli. And if that name is familiar, we have done stuff by Cardoselli before. And as soon as I bring it up, I think you guys are going to have flashbacks. So Where Does the Rainbow End is a story about a robot who finds a little girl and wants to raise her. But the problem is that the robots live basically in a landfill. And this is where you might remember Stefano Cardoselli's art from Don't Spit in the Wind.
Oh, right.
And so I look at this comic and I immediately have like flashbacks to that comic because it was it has like Cardoselli has such a distinctive visual style in a way that everything's really bright but also disgusting and like dingy and like gross and kind of like
I like to think of it as a simpler version of Mobius.
Yeah, it's definitely got something going on like that. It's like, it's like it's in a lot of ways it's really detailed, and it just kind of brings up that grime level to everything while still being very brightly colored. So yeah, if you didn't like Don't Spit in the Wind, you're not gonna like this, but I thought it was okay. This is apparently a prequel to a separate book that's called Love Me, a Romance Story. Also by the same creative team, I think. Definitely by the same writer. So what I wanted to know is if they take place in the same world as Don't Spit in the Wind, because some of the there's a lot of like trash issues going on, and this also says like a long time ago this is the way things were, while also being said in our future, so presumably this could still be the world of Don't Spit in the Wind, just in its own past.
Yes, no, it definitely takes place in the same universe. They're part of a shared sci-fi dystopian world created by these two creators.
Well, there you go. Because I'm pretty sure some of it's like you see some of the same brands, and then it's like, well, that could be like a wink wink, like we're using the same like soda cola, right? Like that doesn't necessarily mean imply a stronger thematic link, but yeah, no, it makes sense that they are. I'm gonna give it 3 slices of meatloaf. I think it's good and it's starting to head in an interesting direction, but I think maybe the fact that it's like meant to be a prequel about something that I already know about means that when characters are introduced, maybe I should be like this character. And I don't go like that because I don't know them yet.
What's the final verdict? I'm sorry.
3 slices of meatloaf.
3 slices of meatloaf. Very good. All right. Thank you for that, Rodrigo, Matthew, and dear listener, thank you for being part of everything we do at Major Spoilers. Hey, at the end of 2025 and the very beginning of this year, we had to move to a new site. Where can you find us now? majorspoilers.substack.com. That's where you want to go for all of our original content. You're tired of press releases, you're tired of sneak peeks, those kinds of things cluttering up your favorite content. Well, we've streamlined it. Everything is there. All the archives from majorspoilers.com is there. So if you're looking for reviews, if you're looking for commentary, if you're looking for retro reviews, our home of all of our podcasts, all there. Point your browser to majorspoilers.substack.com. We've got over 100 people who have already subscribed in the last 2 weeks. We want you to subscribe to our newsletter, where 3 times a week you will get some insight into the one that comes out on Wednesday. I put a comic book recommendation or 2 in there for you to pick up. And then we look at some other things that are going on in the industry. This week, I break down who was the big winner for the top 10 comics of December of 2025 and a whole lot more. You can get that in your inbox Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings when you subscribe at majorspoilers.substack.com. Now that we're over 100, let's see if we can get to 500. Let's see if you can show us some love by getting us to 500 subscribers by February 14th, 2026. Again, majorspoilers.substack.com. All right. I am about pizza out at this point because we had pizza on New Year's Eve, and we just got pizza from our local establishment the other night. And, of course, one of my kids is sick, so he's not hungry at all, which means it's up to me. My wife doesn't care for pizza, which it's up to me to eat all the rest of the 3 large pizzas. But I have a question for you guys. Here are your choices. These are your only choices. You have thin crust, hand-tossed, pan. What is your crust choice? Matthew, what is your crust choice? Thin, hand-tossed, or pan?
Thin crust. And it's probably due to my upbringing. Because, when I was a kid, if we had pizza, it was either Pizza Hut or it was the IGA that was basically, a little bit of cheese and some ketchup on what's essentially a soda cracker. But to this day, I will still occasionally go into a bout of ritual self-destruction and go buy a Red Baron.
Red Baron's good pizza. The ones you want to avoid are the Totinos and the Ginos.
I love those too. I grew up with you go and you have a Totino's or like a Tony's pizza. You just throw it in the what do you call it?
The oven.
Ovens. But yeah, thin crust for me, simply because I like a little crunch, and I feel like a crunch offsets, especially if you've got a topping heavy pizza. It kind of offsets what can be some sogginess in the cheese and the vegetables and the meats.
Mm-hmm. I like our local pizza place, Lamato's. They're one of the best pizza places in Kansas. I like their thin crust, but also the crust edge is chewy, and I like the chewiness of that thin crust. That's not like what you get at like Pizza Hut, where you get a thin crust and your crust edge is all crackly, like you're eating a cracker. That one's okay too, but I like a thin crust that holds up. It's not too doughy, it's not too much. And then you get a little bit of dough at the end for your edge crust on the pizza. That's my favorite kind. Rodrigo, what about you? If you had to choose between those 3 crust styles.
So hand tossed is like the one with like the thicker crust.
Yeah, it's got a thicker crust, but it's not going into casserole territory.
Right. It's I think I do like hand tossed because I actually kind of like having a bonus breadstick.
There you go. Get some dipping sauce.
Also, there's a lot of people who don't like that stuff. So throughout my life, I've been the guy that eats your crust.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's like other kids would be like, I don't want this part. And I'm like, gimme.
Yeah,
so
same.
you can dip it in stuff. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. My oldest, I do not know. My wife doesn't care for pizza, but she'll eat it if she has to. My oldest never was a crust kid. All through life, never ate the crust. And so he'll get up from the table and there's like 4 or 5 pieces of crust right there. And I'm like, well, I can't let that go to waste. And then I look in the mirror and go, oh man, I'm getting a little doughy myself. I wonder why. But yeah, I do not get the appeal of a deep dish, thick crust.
So at
pizza.
the deep dish, it's like
a casserole.
It's like cooked, right? It's like, it's like the pizza is like
a lasagna.
A disc, right?
Yeah. And you've got along the sides too. I mean, to each their own. But
you mean the crust itself, or like a deep dish pizza in general?
Yeah, like a deep dish pizza in general.
I mean, I used to live in
Chicago,
outside of Chicago. Yeah. So there's some good deep dish pizza out there, and you just have to approach it that way. You just have to be like, okay, I would like, it's like I would like a disc that is composed of bread, structural sausage, and then like a mile of like melted cheese that is like just coagulated enough to be kind of solid, and some marinara sauce somewhere in there. And it's like, I don't know. I think that's good. It's like eating a pie.
Yeah.
I don't understand, why. And I'm not accusing you of doing this, Stephen, but why people think of it as like a competition.
Oh, I don't think it's a competition either. I was just asking what you guys
pizza
prefer.
war.
But like a really good well done deep dish pizza. And when I say deep dish, I mean one that you can pick it up in your hand. People will eat it with a fork, but we are pizza barbarians, and so you scoop it up and it burns your hand, and there's cheese everywhere. That's a really fun, kind of a visceral experience, and so I enjoy a pizza. The one that I think it's Detroit style pizza, where they pour the sauce on top.
Yeah, they're basically inverted. Yeah, one is cheese on the bottom, sauce on top. The other one is sauce on the bottom, cheese on top.
Right. And that one is a really, really thick crust. And that's one where, like a Detroit style pizza, really works with a big, thick crust, because then your sauce kind of just floops down into the already cooked bread. You get a really nice experience.
Yeah. Hey, what kind of pizza crust do you guys prefer? Head over to our Discord server. You can join the Discord server for free and let us know. No judgments going on. You can put whatever you want on your pizza. You can have whatever crust you want on your pizza. I don't care. If you like pineapple on your pizza, go for it. If you like honey mustard on your pizza, go for it. I'm here for all of the pizzas. I cannot wait until I win this lottery jackpot so I can move to different cities and just try all their weird pizzas that they have. Like, I've been watching a bunch of the craziest pizzas of Los Angeles and looking at all the crazy restaurants that they have there. And I'm like, yeah, I'm down for going and doing a tour of getting me a big slice of that and a big slice of that. So there you go. Hey, you may have, dear listener, perked up your ears when you're like, Major Spoilers has moved? Yeah, we've moved. Majorspoilers.substack.com. Don't worry. We still have our Patreon page. Same site. It's the same site. But we still have our Patreon page. In fact, if you want to find out more about this move, the VIP live chat that I just recorded for the year ending 2025 is free for everybody. You don't even have to be a paying member at patreon.com/majorspoilers to listen to it. But if you would like to become a paying member and kick in a few bucks if you find value for value, we'd love for you to come over to our Patreon page, patreon.com/majorspoilers, where you get the Major Spoilers podcast pre-show. This week, we talk Archie Bunker. We talk about New Year's Eve. We talk about alcohol and a whole lot more. You're going to want to listen to that by becoming a patron today. $5 a month. Actually, if you sign up for a full year, you get a discount. It's essentially you get 2 months free, but $5 a month is not that much. And if you find value in what we do and you want to see us continue and thrive in 2026, become a patron today. Patreon.com/majorspoilers. It is that time of year where we go back and visit our favorite little Belgian Tintin. Last year, he got blasted off into space. This year, Tintin is part of the explorers on the moon.
We are French and we are on the moon.
Well,
and our head grows and changes colors.
They speak French, though.
Hergé is back
we're
again.
We're Francophone and we're on the moon.
Yep. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you guys think of this? This is your typical Tintin story, I think, where hijinks ensues while they explore strange new lands. And by the time they're done, everything's kind of been reset. Rodrigo, where are you going to take us?
I thought, just right off the bat, the thing that I like the most about this one is that I don't know where it comes in the timeline of Tintin. Have we been doing them in order?
Yes, we have.
In chronological order. So, so this is years into Tintin.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, I feel that this one gives Thompson and Thompson the visual expression that they deserve, in that they
radical hippies
turn into wildly colorful yetis throughout this whole thing. And because they're trying to cut
Alan Moore.
Yeah, and because they're trying to cut their hair, they end up with these really ridiculous, wacky haircuts throughout before their hair magically grows again.
Yeah.
I just found that it's part of my issue with Tintin, and it was as a kid, because my grandma had Tintin stories. I was always disappointed by how not magical they were, by how actually kind of grounded and mundane they were a lot of the time.
Right, yeah.
So seeing something like this, I was I wish there was more kind of whimsically, even if it was scientific, right? Which this is like they ended up ingesting some chemicals or whatever. Some whimsical stuff like this, outside of just like Snowy looking at the camera and being like, "Oh, brother, can you believe this?"
There's some weird science definitely going on here. By weird science, I'm not saying about putting bras on your head and having Kelly, what's her face, magically appear. Although that would certainly make this comic book a lot more interesting. The weird science in this is like, we're going to the moon, and on the way to the moon, we are passing this little moon that is halfway between Mars and Jupiter. And it's like, what? Wait, what are you talking about? And then we're going to go and avoid this comet and see if it'll just plunk off of our rocket ship shell. And then we're going to lasso some people in space. And so while there's a good attempt, now you have to remember, this came out in 1953. So, we are just at the age of we are going to send a man to the moon by the end of this decade and return him safely to Earth. We're just on the verge of that. And so there's still a lot unknown about space exploration. And so we do get weirdness in that, the moon is not made of cheese, but there's certainly some fire pits down here. But there's also some very interesting things like, hey, if we accelerate, we can create artificial gravity, and then we flip the ship around, and as we decelerate, and we can land. That's stuff that's actually being done. When they talk about going FTL travel, that's kind of what they say. You speed up to the halfway point, and then you start to decelerate in order to keep your
to be able to land
without blowing everything up. So I thought some of that stuff was very cool, but don't open this book for science.
It's not. It's actually really fun for me to look at this and be like, this is right, because there's some stuff that you read and it's like at the dawn of like space exploration for humanity, and it's like really, really wacky, right? And that's fun too. But like, I really actually liked how like scientifically accurate for the time this was. Like clearly, is it air gay?
I don't know. I always get our Belgian listeners always yell at me about this. So
sorry guys. It's we do this once a year, and in those 365 days we forget how to pronounce it. So we always look up
Mabius.
Yeah, we always look forward to late January, where a bunch of Europeans tell us what we're pronouncing wrong.
Yep.
But I found it charming and same thing with the last one, because in the last one they talk about things like, when we take off, we have to like be like face down on these like space age mattresses so that our organs don't compress or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, like it's like this is like stuff that people were talking about. It was in the atmosphere, like people were like, so here the author is like putting together all of these ideas to make it seem scientifically possible, which, a lot of sci-fi that was made back in those days seems quaint, but like I can tell that they're really trying.
Yeah, and
what's really trying to be like this again, the sort of like grounded science-based stuff that I hated as a kid.
Yeah,
in Tintin,
and they weren't wrong about lying down, right? So we just flip the astronauts the other way as they go up. But I think if you want a science fact that you can pull this book out and shake in front of your history or science teacher is that Snowy was actually the first dog in space, and not that evil Russian dog Laika, who was late by 3 years. So yay, Belgians!
Right?
Boo, Russians! What's that?
You guys may not know that, but Laika was followed into space by a second dog, Subscriber.
I don't like that this book has like a wall of text.
Oh man, it's so texty, so wordy, and like, are all Tintin books this bad?
I don't remember it just getting to a whole chapter that is just like page after page of word balloon.
Here's why I think this happened. So much of this is just them being in the rocket.
Yeah.
And there's nothing else to do in the rocket, right? Again, I feel that because there's this like attachment to making things realistic, the rocket is very small. There's not that many places to go. Um, they uh, there is then some action that happens, but the action happens once they've already landed,
Mm-hmm.
where a stowaway shows up and like sides are switched, and there's like standoffs and people get tied up and people get knocked out and stuff. Um, but like the first half of the book is just them talking about what's happening, and yeah, every once in a while you have to like lasso Captain Haddock away from like flying into the sun.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, all there is to do in the rocket is talk.
Yeah. Matthew, what'd you like about this book?
I like the fact that they are literally wearing Tony Stark's first Iron Man costume, which kind of cracks me up. And you do have to ask yourself, this was 9 years earlier. Was this an influence on Kirby's art? I don't know. I really love these pre-actual space travel stories, because the first 2 seasons of The Twilight Zone, which take place before anybody actually goes into space, or I guess anybody from the United States goes into space. But you have these stories where it's like, these 3 astronauts go up, and when they come back, they slowly disappear from space because we don't know what's up there. And in context, 70 years down the line, we look back at this and go, oh, well, some of this is just silly nonsense. At least he didn't, say the moon was actually made of green cheese, but you actually look at the way the ship lands and the fact that they have like a full-size Tiger tank in it, which, by the way, is beautifully drawn.
I know, right?
It's just gorgeous. I think I had that when it was green from G.I. Joe back in the 80s. But throughout this whole thing, I just had this sense of this is what they thought the future was going to be.
Yeah.
This is what 1953 thinks 1978 should be like. So it has that Soylent Green kind of, episode 13 of The Twilight Zone where you're like, oh, yeah, we came back from space, right? But now it turns out we're on the wrong Earth. Ah!
Yeah.
But also, there is, and I think I said this a few years ago in the ongoing Asterix stories, there is a point where what Stephen calls the third season syndrome kicks in for books, where it's not as good anymore and it's probably never going to be as good again. And for some reason, going to the moon feels like that point where Tintin is not as good as it used to be, and it's never going to be as good as those first few books again. Maybe that's just, 50s comics where Batman is in outer space and Robin dies at dawn and aliens, they come to Earth and they give us some chiclets,
It is interesting because Tintin comes from an earlier era of comics,
Mm-hmm.
right? Here we're moving into that space age era.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
if the prospector from Toy Story is correct, like
Oh, yeah,
Tintin is kind of
This is the end of the
he's-
Western.
yeah, he's kind of trying to stay relevant, right? Like this
Yeah.
pulp, like I'm adventuring in the Amazon thing is like dying out.
Yeah. No, I've talked about this
and
before.
Sci-fi stuff is taken over. Yeah.
Yeah, I've talked about this before, that I think we can pinpoint the detonation of the nuclear bomb as when true pulp stories ended and we moved to sci-fi, because once we had this nuclear age, suddenly cowboys, Doc Savage type characters and the Shadow and all the Phantom kind of fell by the wayside, because we wanted, Zap in space and Tintin in the moon and all of these kinds of things. And so it's one of those things where we can look at this story, the 2 stories together, Destination Moon and Explorers on the Moon, as that point where we're seeing a turn for Tintin. The 2 books, the last year's book and Explorers on the Moon, are often regarded as the best of Tintin by so many fans. And I know that a lot of our European listeners just love these two tales. And I can see why. I mean, yes, there are walls of text, but you also just get this fantastical story that Herge did as much real research as he could into what they thought space travel would be like. I mean, the rocket in this story is so iconic, the red and white rocket, that there's a YouTuber that is a real estate commentator, and he's got the Tintin rocket in the background on his shelf. Now the downside is that the design is also kind of based on the German V2 rocket, but that's beside the point. But for a lot of people, these two books together are the best of Tintin. This is the part where so many of our listeners, maybe because they're of age, maybe they read this when it originally came out, or very close to it, like you, Rodrigo, by getting their parents or their grandparents' copy of this, where people really are like, "Oh, this is a fantastic adventure." And yes, as silly as lassoing Captain Haddock in space is, at least they're doing cool things with, hey, we're going to put these special boots on so that if the gravity goes off, we can still walk around, so we don't have to float and do all of those things. I think that's what makes these two books super interesting. What do you guys think?
I found all that stuff really charming. I think somebody might have told us that some of these stories got like adapted as like audio stories and like LPs.
Oh, really? I don't. Yeah, maybe. One of our listeners will let us know about that.
Yeah, so it's like, if that's the case, maybe this wall of text stuff would be actually more fun to sit down and listen to.
Yeah.
If like everybody has like a funny voice.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be funny.
Like there's Tintin, who probably has a normal voice, and literally every other character is ridiculous in some way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably fun.
Yeah. I will say, breaking away into general Tintin conversation, I'm really sad that we have never gotten a sequel to the Steven Spielberg 3D Tintin stuff that he did with, was it Peter Jackson and the bunch of other really super talented people. I kind of wish, I think that people are starting to find that movie now and are starting to see the brilliance behind it. So maybe we will see the sequel to that someday. But I really kind of wish that we would have gotten that second movie, because I think that had that second movie come out, we probably would be talking about this book, Explorers on the Moon, and saying, oh, by the way, coming out this summer, the fourth Tintin movie, Explorers on the Moon. Yeah. And people would be going crazy for it.
The nice thing about that movie is that if the project ever did pick up, because it's animated, you could just bring all the same people back who were already too old to be these characters.
Yes.
And they'll just, slot right into the voices.
Now, the other thing is, and this is where our European listeners really need to chime in over on our Discord server. Asterisk in the United States, not really popular. I'll be honest. I mean, he's popular enough that people would recognize him. Paper cuts still sell the volumes. The Tintin volumes come out every once in a while, but Tintin is also not a super well-known character here in the United States. They might recognize it, but more than likely no. But in Europe, like, there's a whole series of, like, all of the Asterix books have been turned into animated movies, full-length animated movies. I can't tell you how I know these things and how I may have seen some of these things, but they're out there. I don't know if the same is true for the Tintin movies, and maybe people can let us know if there are, like, I'm not talking about like a 1960s version of Explorers on the Moon, but I'm talking about something that would probably have been done in the 80s or later of any Tintin adventures. I think that would be interesting to know if that stuff exists, because that, again, shows that there's popularity of these characters in Europe that just have not come to the United States for whatever reason, or haven't latched on here in the United States. I mean, there's even multiple Asterix live action movies that have been done with that one guy that has gotten into some trouble. The guy that plays Obelix has gotten into trouble with it. Yeah, but I wasn't going to say his name. And so, that really shows that there's this break in a cultural touchstone, where it's almost like we could just get some studio in the United States to believe in this stuff and try to do a release. I think we could probably have more people diving into these tales.
I mean, studio movies in the U.S. are kind of the problem, right? Like, because they could easily just do this whole thing in Europe and it would be fine, but it would be blocked from getting into the United States,
or it'd be harder to get into the United States.
Or they just wouldn't get them, right? They'd be like, no, European stuff doesn't sell in the United States, so we don't care.
Yeah, I think the only Asterix movie that really kind of tried to make an attempt into the United States was Asterix and Cleopatra back in the early 2000s. And they've made other movies, but they just haven't gotten here to the United States, maybe because of that one, which is a shame.
Yeah.
What did you guys not like about this book? This is where we get our European listeners really angry at us.
The French part now. Honestly, this is one of these stories that I remember being serialized in Reader's Digest or Children's Digest or something when I was a child. So I don't necessarily have anything that I didn't like about it. I feel like the comic relief is folded in a lot better this time. Captain Haddock is less
of a drunk?
I mean, well, yeah, the Red Rackham's treasure puts the captain kind of at the forefront.
Yeah.
In a way that this story doesn't. This story is really kind of ramrodded by calculus because, I mean, he's the professor and this is a science fiction story. But I feel like the exploration part of it is lovely. There's page 25. There's like a 3/4 page, beautifully drawn moonscape with, the checkerboard, Bob's Big Boy rocket in the foreground that I love. I would say really the only possible downside of this, and again, knowing that people know that this is the best, part of my brain is just like, this is a shark jump moment. This is, we've now gone to space. And even though they have tried to stay on the harder side of the hard science fiction scale, we're on the moon. We're dealing with, some moon stuff. The lesser gravity of the moon is interestingly drawn, which I thought was lovely. Thompson and Thompson doing their little ballet leap across the moon entertains me, but I don't think there's anything really to dislike other than just that creeping feeling of I'm getting old and maybe Tintin is too.
What about you, Rodrigo?
Well, it is very wordy. I think this probably wouldn't be the length it is if they didn't spend, I feel like, extra time talking about stuff because there's not much to do in the rocket. And that's the thing is like not much happens. I think sometimes you sit down to read a volume of Tintin and it's like, what'll happen is like this guy gets captured and then this guy goes to find him and then they switch places and that guy gets captured and the other guy goes to find him and Snowy's over here and he learns to drive a car.
Yeah.
Right? So like there's like all of this like kind of sometimes wacky, sometimes dangerous stuff happening in this. Everybody's in the rocket. Everybody's like facing forward. Not as much happens.
Yeah.
So that's probably the main thing that I felt was a drawback.
What did you guys think about Wolf's committing suicide?
I hadn't really thought about it.
Because this was a big deal when this came out. Like people were like,
"Oh yeah,
how dare you? That's a sin to commit suicide, etc."
I just never know how stuff like that is taken at any given point, right? It's like how Disney villains would die at the end of every movie, but they had to die like through an accident or through like some stealth.
Heroic, the hero does it.
Yeah, well, no, the hero can't do it. The hero can't actually kill them.
Maleficent, the Sea Witch.
They die because of their own.
Right.
Like you can't have Indiana Jones shoot somebody in the face, but you can have him squeeze his eyes closed while Toad gets melted by his own, hubris.
Right, hubris. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that ship was already there. Eric just kind of nudged it.
Yeah. Okay.
So you know what I'm saying? It's you never know.
Batman doesn't kill people; he just burns the plants that are keeping the people alive. so that they turned into sawdust. That's not the same thing.
Yeah, he just launches a car into another car, which then crashes into a third car, right?
Yeah.
Right. But to me, it didn't necessarily. I guess it may just be. Had the cold equations even been written yet? This came out because it didn't feel to me like, oh, terrible suicide. It felt more like almost a I have to do this, noble sacrifice kind of thing. Where if anyone will survive, I cannot. I didn't necessarily think, oh, what a terrible sin. I thought, hey, that guy, saved the main character's life.
Oh yeah, no, the Catholic Church, Europe, very Catholic. Catholic Church went off on this book so much so that I think the edition that we read actually has a line added at the end to make his suicide more heroic sounding than what it actually is. But there's a lot of controversy about the suicide part. Now today we might say, oh no, that's just a hero being a hero and doing what the hero does, even though this guy has been a bad guy the entire time. But maybe back in the 50s, maybe not so much. This is before of Vatican II, so definitely not a good thing. So
yeah, I guess I did not think that big of a thing of it. This is like something that's like actually pretty standard in storytelling now. So
and 70 years later, I feel like the context, the social context, or whatever you want, even if you want to talk about, the religious context of it, I feel is different. And that may be something, because again, like Rodrigo, didn't really even register to me as, he's going to go to hell now, or he's going to spend eternity in purgatory with all the people who talked in the movies. But I don't know. To me, it felt like it felt like a hero moment. It looks like apparently the cold equations came out after this. I don't know if have you read that story where
I have not. I'm just reading these in order.
A girl ends up, well, it's not a Tintin story. It's a science fiction story from the early days. But a girl ends up as a stowaway on a spaceship, and it turns out they don't have enough fuel if they have two people on the spaceship. And then there's the crux of the story is, can you save two people, or is everybody doomed? And so it made for a really, really excellent TV show on Sci-Fi about 25 years ago. But
okay.
I didn't necessarily read it like that. I felt like, I will do the thing and the moral thing, and you will all be better because of it. And then we'll make a statue of you.
Bottom line, Matthew.
Definitely worth checking out. Even if you're not sure if you're into wacky, fun European comics, I say pick this one up. Even if you snag it at the library, this is really well drawn. This is, kind of got some big adventure-y bits in it. And for me, and keep in mind, I grew up reading 50s comics, the wall of text isn't really necessarily an issue for me. So if you love the work of Stan Lee, I feel like Alger will not throw you off the wall either.
Rodrigo, final thoughts from you?
Yeah, this is definitely a get from the library. Unless you're building up your Tintin collection. I found this one very charming, and despite all the text, an easy read. So I think this is one of the more positive Tintin experiences that I've had so far.
Yeah, I wish that we could get these together in one volume, Destination Moon and Explorers on the Moon. I think that would make for a much better reading experience than having to go back to the bookshelf or back to the library to pick up Explorers on the Moon. Again, I can see why these two books, and especially Explorers on the Moon, are beloved classics. And so I would say, yeah, definitely check it out from the library if you're not sure. I mean, we've been doing this Tintin stuff forever. A little bit of note: we've only got 6 more to go before we're done. So Tintin and the Picaros is the final one from 1976. That's coming up in a couple of years at the pace we're going. But yeah, I say go check this out from the library. What say you, dear listener? Are you ready to read some more Tintin? let us know over on the Discord server, because that's where we're wrapping it up for this week. Next week on the show, we're going to be taking a look at a book from Vault Comics called Big Rig. And I'm interested in reading it because it's by, what's that guy that's got the tattoos all over his face, the musician guy?
Post Malone?
Post Malone. It is written by Post Malone. And we're going to take a look at that next week on the Major Spoilers Podcast. Why? Because we know that you love comics. We do too. And we will talk with you soon.
If I had the X-ray vision of a Superman, I could save a few bucks and stand around and read through the covers of the comics on the stand. But although every other page would be backwards, I suppose I could still read the evens and the odds. Well, I don't know. Guess I haven't thought this all the way through. Plus, as soon as the comic book store guy knew, they kicked my butt out on the corner. What a major spoiler. What a major spoiler. Think about a better way. If I was hulking green or gray, I could just bust through that brick wall, take their comic books away. But then the little meat would deal with all the tanks and bombs and guns. Have you ever tried to read a series with all that going on? Guess I need to rethink this plan. How would I back and board my comics with such huge hands? Guess I already told ya. What a major spoiler. What a major spoiler. Yeah, yeah, yeah. What a major spoiler. What a major spoiler. If I'm stark raving rich like a man of iron, I might not be surprised to find that I might actually have the heart cold to follow an entire storyline. But would I really even need to read up on all those escapades? I mean, who needs such distractions when your sister's such a babe? But the downside is such a beast. Being shot up in a fun bee in the Middle East with a gang sign throwing soldier. What a major spoiler. What a major spoiler. Yeah, yeah, yeah. What a major spoiler. Whoa, 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 whoa. What a major spoiler.
Major Spoilers Podcast, copyright 2009. Major Spoilers Podcast, copyright 2010.
Major Spoilers is copyright 2011. Major Spoilers is copyright 2012. Major Spoilers is copyright 2013. Major Spoilers is copyright 2014. This podcast is copyright 2015 by Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC. This podcast is copyright 2016 by Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC. This podcast is copyright 2017 by Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC. This podcast is copyright 2018 by Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC. This podcast is copyright 2019 by Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC. This podcast is copyright 2020 by Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC. This podcast is copyright 2021 by Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC. This podcast is copyright 2022 by Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC. This podcast is copyright 2023 by Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC.
This podcast is copyright 2024 by Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC. This podcast is copyright 2025 by Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC. This podcast is copyright 2026 by Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC.